Greetings, everybody. What's up? This is going to be um, a testimony video. It's also going to um, hopefully be a healing thing for everybody, not just for myself, but for whoever watches this video as I share my experiences and the research and stuff like that. Um, so I'm going to talk about the orphan spirit. I talked about it before, I believe, on my channel, and the effects of it. When I heard about it, it changed my life. One of my good sisters, I was like expressing my frustration when it came to my whole relationship with the creator and God and the universe. I was like, why does it feel like the fucking universe is just against me? Like, I just felt all over the place. So she was like, you have the orphan spirit, because if you understood how the creator works, if you understood God's love for you, you wouldn't feel that way. God is not a punisher. God is not um, one that, is hard on us. So I looked up the orphan spirit. I found, or my sister sent me an audio from a Periscope or something like that, someone's Periscope, and I listened to it all the way through, and it just hit me so much. And I was just taking notes. I was writing it down and like just taking everything in, writing out my experiences and stuff like that. So I felt guided to go further into it, and talk about how it affects, you know, romantic life. I will share my testimony and my experiences and everything that I've, gathered with you guys, and hopefully it will help you, bring you some insight, some healing, some clarity. Um, so nothing I'm saying is anything that you have to take as gospel truth. By all means, please do your own research, use your own discernment, and things like that, okay? So this is my journey, my testimony. I feel guided to share with you guys. I am not someone that is an open book. I'm not comfortable always. I'm learning to be comfortable with sharing, because Spirit wants me to use my stories to help people. And I'm not that type of person, but Spirit's pushing me. I'm coming out of that. So yeah. So if you're unfamiliar with the orphan spirit is, it's a spirit that comes over us in our mind. It's a energy of rejection. I have like notes upon notes in my other phone. So um, it causes the sense or this belief that you are abandoned, that you are lonely. It causes alienation and isolation. Okay. It can manifest into other things such as rebellious energy, rebellion, hatred, greed, selfishness, lack of self-respect, desperation, confusion, emptiness, feelings of rejection, not having any deep, intimate connections with people, including your family, your children. It also conjures up the spirit of inadequacy. So this is someone that often attaches themselves to feeling like they don't belong, that energy, that ostracized, I don't fit in, I don't trust anybody, that type of energy. This what the orphan spirit is, it does not have to be a person that is literally an orphan per se, or doesn't have two parents. It's an exemption of that protection, that trust that you should get first from your parents or a father figure in your life. You may also have issues with connecting to a higher power, higher being. You may be someone that believes that God is, where the universe is working against you, or God hates you, or you're being punished. And that could also be from religion and stuff like that, that also teaches that God is hateful and upset with you and you're gonna be damned, like that type of stuff. So we've been taught that as well. That could play a big role. What it does it overcompensates, seeks validation. When you're in the orphan spirit, you seek, it's a lot of like a lot of ambition and overdrive of that ambition, and seeking for status and seeking for titles, to be loved and accepted by people. Could also like drive you to want to be famous, and like needing a lot of attention drawn to you all the time. it can also cause you to be very, very competitive, the spirit of jealousy. Um, and what it does is it's a struggle. The energy itself is a struggle with your self-worth. It's an issue. It's not knowing who you are. It's like dealing with an identity crisis, basically. All of your life trying to figure out who you are, where you fit in, and you might try to find your identity through other people or through titles, like I said, like um, career titles or your degrees. And I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a this, I'm a that. You know, placing title, like you don't have an identity outside of those earthly titles, if that makes sense. Um, it also, it stems also to what it creates is this feeling of like this emptiness and false, like you can't connect with people. It's hard to connect with others because it's like I keep you at an arm's length and distance. I don't trust you. So it causes distrust in self, distrust that you're um distrust around other people. So love is like very superficial, or it's based off of something, what can you do for me or what I do for you. It's like love is earned rather than something that is exchanged and shared between people. So the concept of love is imbalance. um Also, it's a self-sabotaging energy too as well. It creates obstacles for yourself. It causes you to believe that you got to prepare for some type of failure, or conjures up a fear of failure. So therefore it keeps you from living, it keeps you from taking action, it keeps you from going after your goals or your dreams sometimes, depending on how it affects each person. um Oftentimes love is perceived as something cruel, something painful, um, something again that must be earned. When you connect with others, love is something that must be earned by doing some type of deed, or your looks or your status. Like that perception of love sometimes manifests through the orphan spirit. Um, Another thing as well is like it's very, like I said, very goal oriented, ambition and success driven. Sometimes success again will be based off of your titles, your status, your looks, where you live, you know, material things. It's based off of what value other people place me, not what value do I place on myself in a healthy manner. It doesn't have that again, that connection with your creator or the universe to understand how you're seen by your divine creator, that love that your creator has for you. So you look for value outside of self and how other people see you. Another thing too is my value is placed based upon what I can produce, what I can do, that type of thing. So even with doing what I do, I have to stop myself and not look. It's a beautiful thing to be able to help other people and heal, and these gifts and stuff like that. I thank God for them. But it's also sometimes I have to catch myself not to place my value into this. Like, oh, because, you know, oh, well, I'm just a reader. And I stop myself because I limit myself and tell people, oh, yeah, I read. And I. I'm going all over the place, and I tend to do that when I share stuff. But um, a lot of times when I started being more comfortable with the fact that I could read and being more comfortable with tapping into my gifts and stuff like that, when I would um, have an interest in a guy, or I would talk to a guy, like I would always try to, like, that was my way of giving and producing and showing something to them, like, okay, well, I can read, you know, I can do more than just, I'm not like just the average. Like that was my thing. And I found that that too was a part of seeking validation. So pleasing others is also the highest goal of an orphan spirit, is how I can please others. That's the biggest thing that stems from this, is how can I please other people. Also, self-love. The concept of self-love with an orphan spirit can easily turn into selfishness by being overly focused on pleasing yourself, doing everything for yourself, that you kind of forget about everybody else, that type of thing. So selfishness, self-love also has its boundaries and limits, because it can also be a false self-love under this energy too. So the questions to ask ourselves, like, if I'm under this energy, if I'm dealing with the energy of an orphan spirit, do I operate out of insecurity? That's number one. Do I get jealous of others? Am I jealous of other people's success in life? Um, do I serve to earn love? Am I, doing things just so I can earn love or validation of someone else? Do I self medicate by pulling deeply inward? So, meaning, instead of going within yourself, instead of really, really focusing on how you really feel and honoring your feelings and your emotions and your pain, self medication, you'll overeat. And that's something that, I tend to do sometimes when I try to escape from something that's painful or something that just happened. I'm like trying to not focus on it. I'll overeat, or I'll get on social media or something like that, or watch something on YouTube and distract myself, or put on some music or something. Even that can be a distraction. So, um, yeah, running from yourself, going within. And I used to think too, like, oh, because I like to spend time by myself, I like to isolate myself. Um, I wasn't isolating myself to really, really spend time on a deep level with myself. It was to, again, alienate and isolate myself from others. So also, that's another thing too. People are like, well, I spend a lot of time by myself. I like being in my own company. But really, it's like an escapism, if that makes sense. Do you struggle with self-worth? Do you fill the void by working constantly? That's another thing too that I tend to do, is constantly working, work to kind of like escape, or to make me feel good. Like if something is not working in my life, let's say for instance, relationships are not working right, or not a lot is going on in my life outside of work, I'll overcompensate for that and just put all of my energy into that. And that's another form of escapism. um, Feeding yourself that feeling of, okay, well, it's something that I'm doing, and feeding that energy rather than going within. So another thing too is behavior of self-indulgence, being overly indulgent in anything outside of yourself. um, are you driven by the need to be successful or to succeed? It does not have to be as far as like career or school or something like that. It could be in life just in general. How do I look if I'm able to get this big house, or be married by this certain age, or have this amount of kids, or have traveled to this place, that place? It's this need to present this false sense of success, if that makes sense. You're always chasing something. Um, do you use people to accomplish your goals? So some people under the orphan spirit will use others. They'll step on other people's backs to get on top. They'll use other people. They'll use, not necessarily, I wouldn't say networking, but it's like use people to get ahead and then kind of just leave them to the side. Do you repel your biological or spiritual children? So what they meant by spiritual children is like, say for instance, I have people that I'm supposed to help, like spirit sends certain people for me to help heal or whatever, give guidance, some type of spiritual help or direction to, um, and I'm neglecting them. And I'll be honest, you guys, I would feel like very uncomfortable when people would ask me like certain questions, like about their path, and I always felt like I'm not equipped, I'm not I'm not qualified to give you the guidance you need for that. So it was me feeling uncomfortable and inadequate and unworthy. So I would kind of push that away and be like, oh, well, that's something you got to find within yourself, which is true. But a lot of times I didn't feel worthy of that. when it comes to like children and stuff like that, um, I was a young mom. I would consider 20 years old being young to have a child. So I was pregnant at 19, had her when I was 20, and I felt I didn't have a disconnect with my baby when I first had her, but it was a feeling of inadequacy and feeling very overwhelmed by it. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And on top of that, I was dealing with depression and stuff like that when I first had my daughter. So it's also that there are times where I don't have the the that I don't have that feeling to want to like spend time with her. At times I feel like I have to isolate myself. It's this feeling, and then it's this guilt, like, oh, I'm a bad mom and stuff like that. So it's a lot. It goes deep, and for me even to share that is crazy. But yeah, I mean, it's the truth. um do you struggle with anger or fits of rage? Yeah, you can go to 0 to 100 real quick, or however, whatever. So that was something that happened often. I would go into a rage, especially um, if I felt rejected, if I felt like, this happens with mainly in like my family dynamics and relationships. I would go into a rage. I would like have a fit. I would yell, start cussing if I felt like I was being misunderstood, taken advantage of, um, rejected, abandoned in some type of way. I'll throw fits. I'll start arguments. I used to be very, very toxic, but you gotta have compassion for yourself, with understanding like where you're at within your journey and your healing process and your wounds and your patterns and stuff like that. You have to be compassionate for yourself. I also, another thing it talks about is going into competition. You're always in competition with others. So for me, I can identify with this in some ways. So when you're in the orphan spirit, you're constantly trying to compete or keep up with other people. So for me, it was like when I was younger, I have a cousin that's the same exact age as me. She's a month younger than me. We're like a month apart. Um, and it would always be like my grandma would pine us against, like put us against each other all the time. Like if I wasn't, I hate to say this, but my grandma's a narcissist, but she would she would do things like if I wasn't giving her what she wanted, or I wasn't acting a certain way or behaved a certain way that she wanted me to, she would go, oh, I'm just gonna go over here, to my cousin. I'm just gonna go over here, I'm gonna give her this, and she's doing so good in school. Like, it was stuff to like attack me, and she would do the same with her. Like, she would buy me things, like nice stuff to make her feel some type of way. So growing up, it was always this competitive energy to live up to that. And she's in a relationship, she has kids and stuff, and her life got her own thing going, and it's always this feeling of I don't have that. I'm still single. I don't have a family yet. And it's that feeling, but it stems from childhood. It's a wound that's there that stems from that. Um, so this, for some people, it could be competing with other people for jobs, other women. That's another thing too. When you're in a relationship, let's take it to when you're in a relationship with someone. For women, we can be pretty catty. When we're in relationships, we compete with other women. We want to look the best. We want to top this one, top that one. Oh, with looks and with whatever. Um, that's another thing too, and that ties into seeking validation. It's low self-esteem. Um, so yeah, it's a strong drive to seek value, to seek some type of significance, but we forget that the significance, you got to find that and dig deep within yourself what that significant means to you. Um, you have a difficult time relating to your spiritual connection with your creator. you have no relationship with the creator. You feel lost. You feel purposeless. Like when you're an orphan spirit, you don't have that connection with a higher power. When I was depressed, when I dealt with like heavy depression, like a dark period in my life, that was when I felt like I had nothing, not even a connection with God or the creator, whatever you want to call it. I felt like there's nothing. So that's a low feeling to have. So when you have that orphan feeling, you have a warped perception of that connection with your creator, because your creator, you're never separate from the creator. You're never separate from that supreme divine infinite energy, because you are a part of that. So you're never separate from it. I also blame that on religion, because it teaches us like a very dark perception of what the creator is and God is, and it's, you know, I kind of blame that on that. And I did grow up in a Christian background, and I still resonate with Christian faith and belief in the word. I resonate with that, because that the word is very powerful. I resonate with it, but certain structures and stuff like that, and the history and all, like how they use it to enslave people's mind and control and stuff like that, I don't agree with that. But also as well, like you'll view like orphan spirits hate authority. They fucking hate it. They don't like to be told anything, even if it's for their highest good. So for me, I had a stubborn spirit where I did not like people to give me advice, even if it was for my highest good. I had despised it, because when you're in that orphan spirit, you're so used to driving your own life in this way, like, oh, I got it all the way together, but at the same time, you don't really even trust yourself, because you can't trust other people. You don't trust yourself enough to even trust others or to trust in your creator. So it's like this false sense of direction, and it's, yeah. So because you've experienced that abandonment at some point in your life, whether you remember it or not, as a child, it usually stems from childhood. You automatically hate authority, because our fathers are the ones that instill that authority, right? There are authority figures first. Our earthly fathers are. So if you don't have that, or your father did not instill that, or you dealt with a passive father, my dad, spirit's making me go like in. My dad was in my life. My parents divorced when I was probably like 10 or 11 years old. But my dad was always in my life. I spent time with him, but he worked all the time. So he wasn't always there. And we didn't have that authority, you know, we didn't have that. Like, so how I saw my upbringing, basically my mother was a single mother. Like, yes, she dated and she had boyfriends and stuff like that, but we didn't have those type of authority figures in our household. So how I saw that was like, a man to tell me anything was either fuck you, get out of my face, or it was like I followed everything that they said. And I'll get into that in one of my testimonies dealing with the orphan spirit, because spirit made me like go in with this. So yeah, so the orphan spirit made me go into my bad bitch phase. I call it a bad bitch phase, that I had when I was young, that really touched on this orphan spirit and how it really affected me, like where I could remember how it affected me as an adult or young adult. So basically, I'll get into this. So when it comes to dating and all of that, I found this really dope article, and I'll read it to you, I'll share with you, and then I'll get into my bad bitch phase testimony and how the orphan spirit got into all of that. But I wrote a lot of notes because I wanted to share this with you guys. Like, I really feel like this is going to help somebody. I don't care how old you are, how young you are, I feel like this is going to help somebody. But I came across this article on Instagram, and I'm going to post the link in the description when I'm done so you guys can find it, but I really like it. So I'm going to read it verbatim. So it says using manipulation tactics to psychologically hook someone into infatuation is a short-lived strategy. Infatuation isn't love. Love is not conditional. It doesn't ask us to self-abandon or wear a mask. So kind of that's what I was used to doing. And when you're orphan spirit, again, what are you looking for? You're seeking validation. So these orphan spirit energies don't just affect our relationship with our families and our jobs and our careers and stuff like that. They manifest in every area of our life. And with love, it's I see a lot of this. Like spirit reveals so much to me just through learning about what it was, through me identifying and uncovering the layers of how this was affecting my life. So I see so much of this in a lot of people. And I was looking on social media and I was looking at certain things that, like, you know, us women, we post it, even men post and stuff like that. And I see so many orphan spirits in a lot of people, which is why I felt led to share this. When we're approaching dating and connection from this place, it's possible that unconsciously we don't feel worthy and think we need to trick someone into being with us. Or perhaps there's an underlying belief that dating and playing games go hand in hand. So we're all taught that, oh, if you do this, I'll get him, you know, that will keep him. Or, oh, if you do this to her, you know, you can get this woman, or you got to have this to get the women. And yeah, it's true, but these are programs that we've been taught to believe. Like, oh, if I cook and clean, then that means I'm valuable and I'm worthy. And us women, as you know, that don't keep a man all, like, no, it hardly ever does. I don't care how fine you are, how good your you know, your kitty cat is. I don't even care how big your dick is. Some of these things don't even matter, like, at the end of the day. And we put so much stock onto it. It may hook us in the beginning, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really keep us in a healthy bond. At least some people stay in these things, but they're not healthy. So it says, okay, culturally this tends to be the case. We call it getting back into the game, but dating doesn't have to be a game. In fact, it can be an opportunity for you to practice exalted authenticity and graceful boundaries that demonstrate your worthwhile, making room for an organic and soulful love. So it's a fear that we have that if I just be my authentic self and maybe even tell people that I'm looking for a serious relationship, or I'm looking for, you know, to marry, if I say that, then that means everybody's gonna run. But if they're running, that means they're not the one, right? Because the one for you is not gonna repel that, because you're gonna attract someone that is also on that same vibration. That's why we get into relationship with so much heartache, because we hide our authentic self, we hold back, we don't share how we truly feel. Some of us don't really know how to even go into our emotions and express what we feel, or even know what we really want and why we want it. So, you know, me personally, this is just my personal opinion, I don't feel like it's a good idea to date when you're in that vulnerability state. You don't know what you want, you're still wounded, you're still healing from a past relationship. You don't feel worthy of love. It's like you're setting yourself up for failure, because you're getting out there seeking for some type of void to be fulfilled, or hoping that this man will just magically wipe everything away, or this woman, or this, maybe multiple people will help you, but it never really does. You don't need to chase love. You don't need to hold back your truth. You don't need to follow dating experts who tell you that the opposite sex needs to be coerced and manipulated into wanting you. That's why I can't stand some of these videos on YouTube. I be seeing them like, oh, how to get a man in 30 days. Or, oh, if you do this, I'm guaranteed you're going to hook your man. Like, I can't stand shit like that, because to me, that's like, it's phony. Like, people still in relationships like this, like, it's really stupid. Some of it is really, like, ridiculous. Like, if self-love is excluded from it and I gotta, like, pretend. And I used to be into law of attraction. I used to try to get exes back and try to figure out how I can make him miss me and all this stupid shit. But it's like, Spirit removed that out of my life for a reason. So why am I trying to call it back in? Especially when I'm not healed, that person's not healed. So why would I want that? So it's a lot of that agenda of this fake love and how to magnetize someone to you, and it's no self-love and no work really truly involved. It's a lot of games, it's a lot of trickery, it's not authentic. You're not here to be an object of someone's fantasy. You're not your body. You are a sensitive and a beautiful being. So that's another thing too with orphan spirits, is with the validation. Oh, it's nothing wrong with wanting to be beautiful or wanting to be handsome and wanting your body to look right or your hair to look right or whatever else to be right. It's nothing wrong with that, because we got to present ourselves. But when we solely think that that's what's going to keep a mate, and it's a turn off now too, because I don't like hearing, oh, you're so beautiful. Like, that doesn't mean anything. Or you're so cute, or you're so fine. Like, that doesn't mean anything anymore. I mean, it's nice to hear, but it's like, I want to know, like, do you see past that? Is there anything else that you're drawn to or that you see besides just how somebody looks? I don't even get hyped up off some guy that looks good. Like, that doesn't mean nothing much at all, if anything. Especially if that's all you have to offer is what you look like or status or that type of stuff. So again, you got to remind yourself that my worth is not validated in these material things, and that includes your physical presence. Like, that's a portion of it, but your worth is your spirit. And that's one thing that has to be identified excuse me, through your creator, is what is my value. And I'm not going to say that I'm perfect with this, because I still struggle with loving myself wholeheartedly, because I still beat myself up physically and still judge myself for patterns and things that I've done in the past or things that I still need to work on. But I'm learning more and more to connect with my creator all over again, because I lost that connection with my creator at some point through being very arrogant in this spiritual thing and feel like, oh, well, I'm a god. And I'll get into that in a second. I'm not saying that we're not gods or goddesses in some right, but in the way it's very arrogant and egocentric, especially in the spiritual community and all of that. I'll get into that. But anyway, you have emotions, dreams, likes and dislikes, and you are worthy of being in a partnership with someone who wants to know your soul deep down. So we got to know that we're worthy of someone that even wants to get to know us. A lot of times, like, oh, well, if I just pretend to be so-and-so, then I'll get this person. And it's basically you're telling yourself, I'm not worthy of being loved for who I am. Someone who will not hold space for you to shine, but who will invite you into their world and drop their armor in order to do so. So knowing that you're worthy of having someone that will be authentic with you as well. Like, if I share myself, you share yourself, because love it's a flowing energy. It's not based off of I have to earn your love or I have to prove my love to you. That's not true love. That's conditional love. Be exactly who you are and don't worry about the game that's not for you. There are people in this world who want to know your heart, but they can only meet you if you're willing to be seen. That hit me too, because I hide a lot. I don't like sharing too much of myself because I feel like I'm going to be judged, or like nobody wants to hear it. And that goes back to my childhood, where I was to be seen and not heard. It was like, as a child, it was more of an emphasis on, it was like some type of false, I have to please people, and I couldn't speak up for myself. I couldn't say no or express my emotions or feelings. I didn't have that outlet. So as an adult, I struggle with that even now on this platform, because top of that, you're afraid of being judged sometimes, or people talking shit, or oh, nobody wants to hear what I have to say. And you got to get past that, especially if it's coming from a place of love and you're honoring yourself and your truth. That's one thing. You have to honor your voice and your truth, and not seek that validation of people are going to hear you or not. Of course somebody's going to hear you. Those that need to hear you are going to hear you, Um, and that's scary. We've all been hurt, and maybe you aren't so certain if you can truly love. That doesn't have to be your story anymore. So making peace with your past, what you went through, does not have to be your story anymore. You don't have to keep reliving those experiences anymore. A lot of times our past experiences are just for us to learn. We had to experience these things for a reason, and if it was something that we decided that we wanted to experience, accept it. Accept where you were at the time and take what you can take from it in a place where it helps you to learn lessons or to become wiser. Imagine what it would be like to date from a place of love over fear. Imagine yourself being brave because you are. Kevin Gates said something on one of his, it was an interview with him and his wife, and he was saying, I'm human. It doesn't mean that I don't have fears, or, if I was to jump off a ledge, naturally I'm going to be afraid to jump, but I still have to be brave. I still have bravery in me. So it's not a fault to have fear or to question things, but honor your bravery and your courage. Like, you got to have courage in order to love or to just be your authentic self sometimes, because again, it takes a lot for a person to, society that tells us we have to be a certain way, dress a certain way, and on top of that have maybe family restrict you and tell you who you're supposed to be, or you're programmed to be a certain way, or to act and behave a certain way. It takes a lot of courage to be your authentic self in the midst of being judged. And at the end of the day, if God is for me, then who can be against me? So at the end of the day, my creator validates me. We are validated by our creator. Others don't really validate us. What they say does not hold as much weight as what the creator says, because we had a purpose before we came here that no one else gave us that purpose. No one can give us that purpose. We created becoming the one to support and guide you releasing yourself. So yeah, they help with empowerment and stuff like that. I'll share their links and stuff if you're interested. So let's get into my testimony about my bad bitch phase. So yeah, when I was about, I think I was programmed into the bad bitch era when I would watch music videos when I was a little girl. I would be enamored by these video models. Video models were popping back in my era. I grew up in the 90s. The early 2000s was when I was in my preteens and stuff like that, and that's when the video vixen was popping. So I was enamored by that. The Melissa Fords and the Tay Heckards, or what. I was all wanting to aspire to be that, and I was being conditioned because that was what I was watching all the time, and it was being glamorized. Again, when you're an orphan spirit, you don't have that proper, you're not getting that validation that you should be getting from home. So I didn't have anybody tell me, oh, you're great, you did good in school, oh, you're creative. I didn't have that. I wasn't being fed that. So TV was feeding me. Music videos were feeding me what beauty was. And I never really felt like, oh, I want to be, because I feel like another thing too, I don't know why I'm being guided to say this, but when it comes to black women or ethnic women, especially of darker skin tone, the colorist stuff is also brainwashes, and a lot. I never dealt with that. I never dealt with, oh, I wish I was lighter, or oh, I'm too this, I'm too. I didn't deal with that. I did date colorist men, and it would make me feel self-conscious, but I never said to myself, oh, I wish I was whatever else, or lighter, or darker. It wasn't none of that. But the whole being lusted after, and walking around sexy and all that, that stuff was a program. So when I fast forward going to 18 and 19 years old, when I got old enough to like go out and do stuff, I had that bad bitch ambition to be like these double XL magazine model archetypes. That was what I aspired to be and look like. So basically, in my definition, what a bad bitch is a woman who's very selfish. They're very superficial. They're materialistic. They're manipulative, greedy, cold. It's a false femininity. It's not a true empress goddess energy. It's like it's very harsh. It's very dark. Shallow. It's vain. It's a succubus energy. It's a Jezebel energy. Um, Very deviant. They're master seductress. So a bad bitch to me is like it's that type of energy. It's not an empress energy. Most bad bitch archetypes, people that embody that, usually are wounded. They deal with orphan spirits themselves, molestation, sexual abuse, stuff like that. Being exposed to sexuality at a very young age at some point. Usually that's what breeds a bad bitch. Some of them are just dark. That's just their nature. Some of them. From my experience, from my understanding, from my spiritual insight of that, some people are wounded. You can tell the ones that are wounded, and you can tell the ones that are just that. They're just that dark succubus energy. So the difference between an empress and a bad bitch, in my opinion, like the difference between that is an empress expresses her sexuality differently. So there's a difference between, like, you can see like a woman take a picture fully nude and it be beautiful. You can see a woman take another, you can flip it and see a bad bitch, quote unquote, take a picture naked and the energy is very lustful. It's like nasty. So with that is the empress expresses her femininity and it's a balance. It's a balance of energy. I feel like it's much lighter. Empress energy is very selective when it comes to their inner wisdom. So again, with sexuality, an empress, their intentions are a little different when it comes to how they express themselves sexually. It's more of a heart-based energy. It's more of a soul-based energy. It's more nurturing. An empress feeds rather than depletes. A bad bitch depletes. They take from you. They don't give anything to you. They suck your energy. So when I was young, I hung around like a lot of fast young women. My best friend at the time was far advanced than I was. She would hang out in the hood and stuff, and I wasn't used to that type of life. So they would pick on me and call me Britney Spears and all this shit. Like, they would make fun of me. So part of me wanted to fit in. So, I was getting into the drinking and the smoking and talking to all these guys and stuff like that. And I was so awkward because I don't have no game. I'm very, like, goofy. I don't have no game and all of that. But at the time, I was using that seductress Jezebel spirit and energy, and I was hooking people. I was tapping into that lower vibrational energy and using this false charm and just being like, not being myself. I was being hella fake and trying to appease and be overly sexy, and it just wasn't me. It just wasn't me. I had this desire to be like a club model. So me and my god sister got into working at clubs, and I was young. I was only 18, 19 working at these clubs and stuff like that. And I would hang around older people when I would be getting drunk, and it was a fast lifestyle. And I feel like you have to go through certain things sometimes. Like, if I had to tell my daughter anything, I wouldn't try to control her and her decisions, but I would let her know the consequences of these paths, because at the end of the day, your children are going to go in the path that they feel guided to go. But I feel like if you give them the insight of your path and what you went through, and you let them know that all choices have a cause and they have an effect, cause and effect. with your choices and decisions, it's best to avoid going through that. So I don't know if any young people watch my channel, but if you are not experiencing that fast life, especially in this day and age for young people, it's so fast. You know, you got young girls online that look like they 21, 25, even some of them twerking online, no clothes on, and their moms are just cool with it. I don't know what kind of generation we live in. It's fucking crazy. And I do want to say that for those parents that are teaching their kids to be upright, and their kids are able to be authentic in this world, but still keep it childlike, because kids are not kids anymore. I thought we were fast when I was young, but this era is on a whole nother level. Like, we had to hide our fastness. These kids nowadays is just like doing whatever in front of their parents, and their parents don't care. I don't know, it's crazy. But yeah. So I found myself engaging in, like, you know, ratchet activities and doing things that I was not supposed to be doing. And I was giving my power away. I was giving my body away to people, because I was seeking fathers and men that weren't even men at the time. They were young boys and themselves lost as well, taking directions from boyfriends. When I got into a relationship with my daughter's father, I gave up all of my rights to him, all of my power away. I made him a god. I excluded God at that point. It was like he was controlling my money. He was controlling everything. Everything that I did, he controlled everything. And I allowed it because I was wounded. I was looking for that authority in a mate, and also that validation. I was heavily insecure, and he would play on the insecurities and talk about other women. I would catch him looking at, you know, shit online and shit, and I would get upset. But with that, again, that's why I say with the orphan spirit, you give yourself away. You want to be loved and validated so bad. And for women especially, dating men, or even if you're dating a woman and say she's more of a masculine archetype, I'm sure you guys can probably identify with that. I don't know, but I do have friends that are lesbians and stuff. It's the same thing. It's like, it's a lot of abusive toxicity when you deal with that orphan energy, and you're seeking that love and validation outside of yourself from a mate or a partner. You give up all of your rights. You give up your identity. You're not you anymore. You're not yourself. So I'm blessed that I'm still here, because I was doing things I had no business doing. My daughter slowed me down, though. I got pregnant at 19, had her at 20, so she slowed me down a lot, but I was still wounded. So in short, I resented these bad bitch archetypes because I just felt like I couldn't live up to that. And I didn't understand that that's not what God called me to be. That's not who I was. Like, that's not what God wanted for me. And that's not something to aspire to even be. So I was like resentful, jealous, insecure. I didn't feel good enough for my daughter's father at the time. I was like, well, that's what he's into, and I can't be that, so why is he with me? And it was feeding in all of that. I couldn't be that. I was constantly triggered by stuff like that. And after that, I still sought after I broke up with my daughter's father, I was still seeking validation in men, still trying to be what I thought they wanted me to be. And all of this, I just lost myself, basically. In short, you can lose yourself in someone, mainly because my connection to my source was gone. Like, I was not feeding my spiritual self at that point. Even when I became aware of my spiritual gifts and stuff like that, my concept of God became very self-centered. It became, oh, I'm a God and there is no God and it's all me. Like, this fleshly mother, like, really? Like, you think that, and not to say that we don't have a higher self, that is, but we are connected to that extension of source. So therefore, yes, we are God. and goddesses, because God is within us. But it's like this selfishness. Like, if you guys get what I'm saying, I hope y'all understand what I'm saying. I feel like I'm all over the place, but yeah. So I wasn't seeing myself in God's eyes, my Creator's eyes. I wasn't seeing the God within me, the goddess within me. I was too busy trying to be peasant, like, when that's not what Spirit called me to be, and I failed miserably. But I was mad. I was like, oh, I'm not good enough because I can't. Like, no, that's not you. That's not your path, and it's a lot of wounding. Um, so in short, until I was able to understand that that's not what God wanted for me, that's not my path, because I'm still healing from that. I'm still healing. I'm still forgiving past lovers because I felt like there was something I did wrong. I must have not did this enough, or maybe if I was a little bit cuter, or maybe if I looked like what they were into and all this stupid stuff. I'm still healing from that. But it's a better understanding that I'm not supposed to seek validation outside of people, because at the end of the day, the truth is we'll never be satisfied by trying to seek outwardly first before we even seek what's within, if that makes sense. Um so yeah. So I want to read a Bible scripture to you guys. You guys don't have to resonate with the Bible, but the parables itself and the spiritual, depth of what they mean on a metaphysical level that could resonate with you. John 4:7-12 says, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God." So love just is. God does not operate in an energy of fear. So any of you that grew up in a religious background, specifically Christianity, you were taught that God was this cruel, supreme being that punished you. So God is love. That's one thing. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. Okay? So back to the seeking validation. I'm going to go more into my love life, because that's really what I was called to talk about. Because I feel like I've ran across, I don't want to say deal with, I feel like I've ran across and I have worked with people that dealt with orphan spirits, and a lot of us do. Seeking validation through men or women when the Father already validates us. So our Creator, like I said, already validated us. Before we even came here, we came here with a purpose. We are loved unconditionally no matter what we do. No matter what we do, we are always loved, always forgiven with that source. Your one will be one within themselves and know who they are in the eyes of the Creator. Therefore, Spirit will reveal you to them in their heart. Perfect love loves you as you are. There's no need to impress or seek validation from one who loves you unconditionally. True love is not earned, it is shared. So I was guided to write that. When we're looking for love, a lot of times, again, we're looking for someone that will validate us, or looking for someone that is going to accept us, but under conditions, and we'll accept them under conditions. It's not an unconditional loving energy. It's not an unconditional connection, if that makes sense. Because perfect love is something that is shared. It's not something that needs to be earned. It just is. So the one that's for you is going to identify you and see you as you are, because they themselves are in tune with who they are. So if you're dealing with someone that is wounded and you're wounded, you guys are not going to be able to flow. Your connection is going to be stifled. It's going to be stagnant. It's going to be conditional, because you guys don't have that concept of what love is. So, and it's not, like I said, you guys are free to do your free will and do what you want to do. Of course, we have that right. From my experience, I would say to anybody that is wounded and broken and hurt is like heartbroken, confused, not to get into a relationship or seek a relationship. Thank God for some, we're not even able to, even if we want to. Like, that's another thing that I'm like happy and grateful for, that I'm not able to get into a relationship right now, because if I was trying to at the times that I was, it would have been horrible. Spirit allowed it for at least 2 months for me to like mingle with someone, and I was still wounded. That person showed me that I was not ready. I still had trust issues. I still had jealousy issues. I still had inadequacy to deal with, getting jealous off of stupid stuff and getting upset and causing a whole scene, creating all of these different scenarios in my mind and stuff like that. I was not ready to be in a relationship. So to save the trouble later, especially if you're trying to manifest or you are praying for something that is stable and something is real, be grateful that Spirit is not allowing you to just get into anything with anybody. It's like sparing you the trouble. um, so my stumbling block was seeking to find the magic outside of myself, and that's when I stumbled upon a connection which led me into the twin flame phenomenon. So fast or skip backwards into 2012, when I was going through my first massive awakening. At that time, um, I was going through a transition in my life, and I was still kind of like seeking outside of myself, because I broke up with my daughter's father because I wasn't happy with that relationship. Yeah, it was a good deed that I decided to leave something that wasn't working, but part of the reason why I left is because I was seeking something else again outside of myself. Not breaking up to say, okay, I'm not going to deal with anybody, I'm just going to heal, I'm going to focus on me and my daughter and such, but it was like this hope that, oh, if I leave this alone, I'll find something that's more better. So again, crash course, Spirit aligned me with a connection that did help me. At the time, I did think that, oh, this could be the one. I didn't know anything about twin flames at the time. I stumbled upon it in another connection, actually, that was also another lesson for me. And it was helping me to navigate myself through my path. That one, I really was seeking validation. Like, I was overdoing it. I was trying to prove to this person that we had a connection and like hitting them up every day. And it was like too much. And because this person was a narcissist, they fed off of that. There was no clear cut, no, like, I'm not interested, or no, I don't feel the same. It was like they kind of fed off of it and they allowed it, but there was no clear cut and dry. So I had to cut that connection off, because deep down inside I knew that it wasn't producing anything. I was deceiving myself in a lot of ways. So I wrote, this is what I was guided to wrote. The twin flame dynamic for some is a drug. It's fueled by aligning yourself with the perfect divine love outside of self, completely missing the point of it being a journey, not a destination, and being a journey through the heart and soul, returning back to perfect love, which is God's love. That's why you'll experience massive pain of breakdowns of any programs, patterns, attachments to false concepts of love by learning about yourself. So the twin flame concept itself, there's a lot of, I feel like, this is just my opinion, a lot of propaganda that is not helpful. It fuels the desire to be wanted and needed, to be validated. It feeds obsession. It fuels a lot. I feel like it's helpful to some extent, because it helps you to reach your awakening and to break your heart chakra open, to even identify your wounds and your patterns when it comes to love, so you can align yourself with that divine love within yourself and God first. Then that echoes out into someone that also matched that vibration, that person, that spirit aligns you with, and says, yes, this person is for you. Because the thing is when we try to get with partners before it's time, or when we're wounded, or when we're seeking these things outside of ourselves, we fail every time. Doesn't work, because it's a divine connection. Divine's hand has to be in the connection. It can't be a divine one that it can't be a divine connection if divine is not in it. You're trying to master everything on your own. You're trying to manipulate. You're trying to pull something. You're trying to do this and do that. And that's why a lot of people get frustrated with it and they want to give up, because it's them driving the connection. It's not the divine doing it, or even allowing spirit to even do that. In those false connections I had, God was not in that. The universe, my angels, my spiritual team was not in it. They were not condoning these connections. It was me driving it. They allowed me to go through that to experience what I needed to experience, but it was not spirit driving that connection. When divine is in it, you'll be aligned to it. You'll be put in those certain circumstances and situations. You can tell the difference between a divine connection and one that's forced, that's ego based. Many people have not truly experienced true love, which is God's love, before, therefore causing one to attach themselves to persons who mirrors back to them their own wounds, creating trauma bonds, staying in unhealthy connections, an inability to move on from toxic patterns or lovers. Most people pining after and claiming to be in divine unions are heavily wounded, operating off of their lust. I'm going to piss some people off at this point, but it is what it is. Operating off of their lust, obsessive behaviors, desperations, manipulation, low self-esteem, jealousy, boasting, delusions, pride, judgments, criticism, conditions, selfishness, self-indulgence, arrogance, aggression, abuse, control, anger, etc. I see this a lot in quote unquote, oh, this is my twin flame. Those energies that I'm speaking of, I see a lot of it. That is not divine love. That's not pure love. That is the ego. And it's human nature to get angry, to get jealous, or it's human nature to be obsessive over someone at some point, or to even lust after someone. But if that's the only thing that fuels and drives it, and that's all you have, and it's constantly a struggle, because God or the Creator does not cause confusion. The Creator does not cause friction and heartache and pain through it. Spirit doesn't want you to be in that. That's not what Spirit called for you. And that's why you have to know how your Creator sees you. You have to understand the love that your Creator sees in you. You have to know your true worth in the Creator, in God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. You have to know what that is, because if you did, you wouldn't settle for that energy, because that's not how God works. Love is not that way. So it is something that I'm passionate about, because I help a lot of people, and a lot of times people ask about twin flames and stuff like that, but the concept of it is so watered down. It's so Disney princess, not in a healthy way, because Disney princess stories are cute and they raise your vibration, but it's like, it's a love and hip hop story for some people. It's not healthy. Not Disney princess. We're not going to shame Disney princesses. Love and hip hop. It's not healthy. It's a lot of wounding that I see. It's a lot of, oh, the karmic is doing this, or oh, it's too much. It's not pure love. It's not. And it's not to say that, again, that you guys will not have to go through certain bumps in the road, or you're not human. But again, if that's what it's based off of, and if that's where most of the energy is in those lower vibrational energies, it's not a divine connection, because Spirit would never want you to be in some shit like that. Not at all. So if I experience, and I've also witnessed a lot of unrequited love situations, imbalance, inability to emotionally connect with lovers, unequal give and takes in relationship, lack of boundaries, and obsessive behaviors in love. When you're in these energies, it creates this delusion of love because of the failing of the concept of true love. So it's easy to be caught up in an illusion that, oh, this is what love is, because you haven't experienced what that true concept is. If you're dealing with that orphan spirit, your wounds are going to filter your perception and ideas, desires stemming from your wounds. So when I desire to be with certain people, it's because of where I was within myself. I thought that it was the one because of my wounds and the delusions that I was feeding because of where I was. So when you're in a certain perception and you're filtering things through your wounds, your desires are also going to stem from those wounds as well. So anytime that you heal and you raise your vibration, you'll find, and it's a fact, like, y'all tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, but every time you've leveled up and you've grown, if you look back at the people that you wanted back in the day, a lot of times you'd be like, I don't even want them. Like, what was I even seeing in you? Like, what did I see in this person right here? And they could be looking the same, they could still be fine or whatever, or still doing the same thing, but you'll look at it and be like, what was I seeing? Like, what was I doing? Because a lot of times it's not the love of the person, because it's conditional when you're wounded. It's more so your projection of love onto that person. You're projecting the love that you want or desire onto another person. You're not seeing the person for who they are. You know, I don't know. Can I get an amen? I'm just saying. If someone is constantly on your mind and on your heart, use your emotional intelligence to find out why. So if someone is constantly on your mind and you're obsessing, that's something that you need to pay attention to. You always want to ask yourself, why do I feel what I feel? Why am I angry? Why am I sad? Or, you know, why do I feel these strong, passionate feelings? You want to know why, and you have that right to explore yourself. You're supposed to learn about yourself and know who you are. So when you have that, ask spirit, you know, test the spirit, like, what is this? Are you wanting me to pay attention to something? Is this some type of toxic pattern? Like, what is this? Like, what is really going on with me? Ask yourself those questions, or ask for spirit to guide you, or your universe, whatever, your guides, to show you. Have emotional intelligence with these connections. Don't just be flowing through it and like, oh, you know, I'm just flowing, going with it. Oh, this is my twin flame because I can't stop thinking about them, or something. You know what I mean? Like, ask yourself these questions, like, what is this? And how do I go about this? It doesn't hurt to ask. Um, you know, is this coming from a healthy place, or is it stemming from a wound, or is it something that I'm stuffing down that I'm not acknowledging? Is it a feeling? Because a lot of times when we're trying to denounce our emotions, our feelings, it comes up. They constantly come up and come up. So, you know, um, in order to do that, like, the human mind can't figure out everything. Like, the human mind cannot solely depend on itself. That's why we have an infinite source that guides us always. We have an infinite source that always guides us, that can see past our limitations. It's far more intelligent than our ego mind. So don't think that you can't get help. Don't think that you'll never find out, or you're just going to be led astray. That's not true. You just have to be receptive to receive guidance and trust that you will not be led astray. Um, the good thing about emotional intelligence is it assists us with acknowledging our emotions. It helps sort out what we're feeling and why, how to handle these emotions, and where to place our emotions. So, like I said, don't just sweep your emotions under the rug or just write it off. Is it such and such? Like, really go internalize and go within yourself and really start to ask yourself these questions. Um, how to, you know, rather than just recreating or overreacting these emotions and these patterns. You don't want to keep repeating things over. So it's always good to check in with yourself. And it's not always an easy task. Trust me, I know it's not an easy task. It takes discipline and it takes patience with self to, you know, to deal with your emotions and deal with your triggers and all of that. But it helps you to learn more about yourself through healing and honoring your truth. This is one of the acts of self-love. This is this is the act of self-love. Um, One of the other things here with this orphan spirit is it also has this pridefulness. There's this pridefulness, selfishness, and arrogance that stems from the orphan spirit. And I had that because I felt at some point nobody could ever tell me nothing. Oh, you know, I was bitter about some of those connections that I was in. I was bitter because I feel like I was being led astray. And I wasn't listening to my inner guidance, because I would get readings and stuff on one of those connections I had like years ago. One of those connections I had, I would get readings, and I was misled, and oh yeah, this is your twin flame and such and such, and I wasn't listening to my inner guidance, because truth be told, I knew that person was not my one. Like, I knew that spirit did not want me with that person, because when I seen them, my lust drove me to that person, because something told me like he's not to be trusted. Something about him that's off. But I was like, the lust. And being upset with another connection, because I hopped from one to the next, and like, oh, okay, well, that one's not working. Well, ooh, I feel something over here with this person, so let me hop into this one. And so I had this bitterness about it, and I was upset with God and the universe. I felt like, you misleading me, so I'm gonna lead myself and such, because I am God. I'm a goddess. You know what I mean? So because of that fatherless spirit lacking in self, I was like, oh, I'm a guy myself. I'm a, pick out my own men and lean on my own ignorant ass understanding without my higher compass guiding me, without that inner guidance. Um, it loves to be in control. The orphan spirit likes to be in authority and control of everything, and control of their feelings, control of how you love me. I'm going to control how my life goes. And I had a very controlling spirit in everything in my life, not just with love. Like, I would control, I try to control everybody else around me and fix everything to be this, and orchestrate things to go a certain way. Like, oh, I'm going to tell them that the show starts in 20 minutes just so I can get them to do what I want them to do, or leave when I was very crafty with that. It's not funny, but I was very it's a hardened, fixed, stubborn energy that the orphan spirit has. It's a hardened heart. It's heart chakra. Yeah. Having difficult time trusting. It despises taking orders or being led by anything or anyone outside of self. Has difficulty trusting anyone enough to receive correction. Therefore, you'll try to be the overseer of your connections by inserting yourself in situations that don't serve you, forcing and orchestrating outcomes, or aligning with unequal unions, repeating the same toxic patterns, rather than allowing the divine to be the overseer and align with what is truly of your highest good. So, whew, yeah. So being the overseer of your own life, not being able to take direction or create any type of correction from anyone, especially if that someone that has your best interest at heart, you discredit it, or you just shun it out and be like, okay, whatever, you don't know what you're talking about. And rather than that, taking divine instruction, or people that, because my thing is like, nowadays I'm very open to other people's experience, especially if I resonate with their journey. I would like to know how they grew through their journey and their testimonies, because I feel like it helps. I feel like it helps taking some type of advice from other people that have been through similar things that I grew through, because it lets me know that it's a possible process. Because a lot of times too, when we're wounded, we feel like, I'm too hard to love, especially we've been told by people that we're difficult, we're evil, or we're mean, or we're a bad seed, or we're a bad kid, or whatever you could have experienced or was told. And I still get told every time that I'm mean and stuff like that. I mean, I got a little sour side. I'm a Sour Patch Kid. I got a little sweet and I got a little sour side, but it's balanced. But being told, oh, you're too picky. And now that I think about it, I'm like, I'm not picky. I'm just allowing spirit to choose what's for me and to align me with what's for me. I'm not just going to settle for anything just because it's available, or because it looks shiny and good, or because it's appeasing my ego, or, because I used to get offended by that when my mom would be like, oh, that's why you're single, because you're too picky. Oh, and, oh, you didn't see that guy. He was trying to talk to you. He was trying to smile at you. And it's just like, I know, like, if it's time, spirit will allow me. I'm not in the season to date necessarily just yet that I know of. When it's time, it will align itself. However it's going to align, I don't know. However spirit orchestrates it and aligns it, I got to trust in that. And yes, it's not an easy process. It takes some time. Patience is a virtue that spirit is working on me. Trust, faith, and patience is what spirit's working with me on right now. I'm building a relationship with my creator, so I gotta start. Gotta start from there. Um, but yeah, perfect love is not one of confusion. The divine does not cause confusion, but the ego, however, does. So it's, our heart can be a little deceptive at times. It could lead us in directions because if the ego is filtering through those emotions, you'll be led in the wrong direction. But if your heart is aligned with that of what's of your highest good and you have that trust, heart chakras need to be worked on. Root chakra and solar plexus, I feel like, are chakras that need the most work with orphan spirits, and maybe even the third eye. Um, yeah. So the word that I was drawn to was, for God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. So again, like, our creator does not cause confusion. It is a peaceful energy. It is a energy of love, an energy of that true oneness, if that makes sense. Not that fake, namaste, we're all one. Like, not that. And sure, we are all one, but you know what I mean. When you trust and understand divine timing, divine alignment, and the divine will for your life, the anxiousness will start to dissipate. So I used to be like, because I'm starting to feel a little bit lighter now. Because I'm like, well, why isn't love happening? And, I did this and such, and I want this to happen. And it's not happening at my time. But every time I sit back and I just allow, like, I'm learning, like, okay, God's time is always perfect. It always is. Like, there's times where I went without, and I had to remind myself of those times that I was without something, and God came through at the right time for me. So I have to remind myself that. So if you can do that for me, why couldn't you do that for love? So I have to trust and believe that spirit is not going to promise me something just to not give it. So if you ask the universe or something that is of your highest good, something that your true heart's desire, the universe is not going to repel that. It says so. When you ask, you shall receive. If it is of your highest good, what you're truly asking for, what you truly want, because sometimes we think we know what we want, but the universe knows how to thankfully filter through that to tap into what we're really energetically and vibrationally asking for, if that makes sense. Um, be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. Let your requests be made known to God. So again, your true heart's desire will be given to you. Basically, that's what that means. Your true heart's desire will be given to you. Nothing that's for your highest good will be ever withheld for you. It's not going to happen. However, what's not meant for you will be withheld. If it's something that's on delay, like right now, I can easily say, oh, well, God must not want me to be married, or God must not want me to be with my divine counterpart because I'm still single after all this time. But I have to look at it, and my sister always says, is delay does not mean denied. It's just not the time, I'm assuming, because if it was, it would have happened. Um, For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, but to give you a future and of hope. Jeremiah 29:11, which is one of my favorite verses. That, again, spirit has, or the universe has, that infinite supply, that infinite possibility. So no matter what time where you are in your life, no matter how old or how young you are, what you've been through, what you look like, what you have or you don't have, whatever, your needs will always be given unto you because your creator wants you to have what's best for you. It's a plan to prosper you and not to harm you. So again, you got to wash that all away, that energy of what's not true, that false sense of I have to earn love, or love is cruel, or I'm not good enough for love, I'm too hard to love. You gotta, again, I can't stress this enough, whatever you believe in, whatever your source of higher power is, connect with that and find yourself within that, and that love that's there, that oneness. You gotta tap into that. God is an infinite energy. God is an infinite source. So you got to tap into that and what that means to you and find yourself in that. Like, who am I in that? because once you figure out who you are and what your purpose is, and even if you don't have all the answers, because I still struggle with that at times, or I'm still, I'm still working or growing through that. I'll say I'm still growing through understanding fully what that is. But I find the more that I trust and the more that I just submit to not being in control and forcing things, that I'm being aligned with what I'm asking for, even if I don't know that I'm asking it, if that makes sense. So yeah, so like when it comes to love and all of that with the orphan spirit, like the more I'm healing, even when I didn't know that I was healing from it. Thank God for my sister for putting me on to what this was, because it helped more of open more of the layers of what I was dealing with and what so many people deal with. And I feel like even this, I pray, and I know that I'm not just sitting up here just talking my ass off for nothing, because I'm sure that it's gonna help somebody, and even people that I come across, because it helps me identify it, and it helps me also want to be a better mother, because I don't want my daughter to have to go down the path of seeking that and feeling like she's not good enough and all of that. So I want to be an example. But yeah, when it comes to love, like going back into the God complex thing, I never understood why I was very turned off by these, the conscious community, as they call them, in the black community. They call it the conscious community, the woke. I was never attracted to the men that was into all of that, because it was like this false masculinity. It was very egotistical and misogynistic. It was just like a turn off. It's just too much. Ooh. Um, and I understood now, like I get it now, because where I'm at, I desire a man that has a connection with God in a way that they know who they are. They're not, because a lot of these like conscious, like woke, like, oh, I'm God and such, all this crazy stuff. I sound crazy. I always have to have like some voiceovers when I'm talking for other people, but it's too much. And you can see the orphan spirit and the wounded masculine in a lot of those men. And I have compassion for them. At first, I used to despise them and be like, because I thought that with me being spiritual and stuff like that, I was supposed to be with a quote unquote conscious man that was into all this extra knowledge and like all this other stuff. And yes, it's a turn on when men have knowledge and intelligence and study and certain things and has an open mind, but it's like some of it is too much. And I think some of y'all know what I'm talking about. It's like it's a big turn off, because it's like it's a glorifying themselves, and it's just like orphan spirit shit. The Hotep, I'm woke shit. I'm not into it. But the thing about that though is the more and more like what I found, because I used to kind of be, like I said, arrogant in spirit. I used to be arrogant in walking the path and, oh, I'm God and I'm this. And yes, like I said, again, we're validated by spirit. So yes, we are gods because we're connected to God, and we're validated in our creator. So therefore we are a part of divine creation. So yes, in essence, yeah, that makes sense. But however, I was like, not humble, but now I'm humble enough to acknowledge that there is a higher power that works through me, that is bigger than this flesh that I do have, that creates, and it's an infinite energy. So I humbled myself in that sense. So with seeing that type of stuff, like it was a big turn off for me, and I was just like, I don't think that that's what spirit wants for me. So my requirements when it comes to love, and my taste when it comes to men, and my desires for in a husband, that changed a lot. Because at first I was like, I don't think spirit would want this for me, but I'm kind of questioning, yeah, kind of questioning that. So now I desire and appreciate men who have healthy relationships with God, their own relationship with their creator. Does not have to be any type of structure like, oh, I'm Christian. And if you're Christian, if you're Muslim, whatever, if you have a source connection with something, that governs your life and guides your life in a direction that is aligned for you and that is of your highest good, that that is a plus. So spiritual maturity, intelligence, emotional intelligence, and humbleness, and a person that is seeking their true purpose in life, and creative, and someone that's authentic, and all of that other stuff. Like, you can make me laugh, you're trustworthy, you're loyal, you're humble. Like, that is a plus, along with other things. We ain't getting into all that, but in short, like, my taste in partners changed significantly through healing. And as I heal, like, it helps me understand even why I want these qualities, because it's one thing to say, oh, I want someone that makes me laugh, but why? Because I'm goofy as shit, and I want somebody that I could kiki with and laugh and be goofy with and be childlike and live longer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to have some type of reasoning why you want what you're asking for. And that's with anything, not just with love, but just your life in general. But of course, physical attractiveness is a plus, and all of that. But again, if it's a shallow shell and a wounded, fucked up individual that does not want to heal, because wounded, we're all wounded to some extent. We all are. Even when we've healed certain things, there's always more that we can acquire, more that we can evolve into, grow, know, and learn about ourselves. So I can't exclude and just say, oh, well, because, yeah. No. As long as you are someone, again, you have emotional intelligence, and you're someone that wants to grow and do better and evolve as a person for yourself, and first and foremost to better yourself, not because you're seeking validation from others, because that was another thing that I found myself doing, that when I was in the whole twin flame thing, I wasn't even really healing. Let's keep it all the way real. When I thought I was, at least. There was ways that I was healing unknowingly through being vulnerable and expressing myself in these connections, but I was doing it seeking validation, or hoping, in hopes that I would attract someone that is going to, oh, he's going to come if I do this, because that's what the whole twin flame dynamic says. You got to heal. You have to heal yourself so you guys can be in divine union. But I didn't understand the true concept of what healing really meant, that it was an ugly process, that it was not an easy process. And it's still not an easy process all the time, because it takes discipline. And I'm not going to say I can be a stubborn person at times. Yeah, it's not easy. So another thing too, like, it just helps me understand, the healing helps me with love to understand more of what I want. So I'm more selective, but again, I'm not really doing the selective wholeheartedly, because there's something higher that's guiding me, that knows better than I can see, and can see things about people that I can't see, even with my foresight. Things that people hide, or things that spirit is personally keeping from me, but protecting me from, whether it be the timing is not right or the person is not right. So even that's why I don't solely just lean off of my understanding, because there's things I can't see. But yeah, if he doesn't know how to submit, like, if a man, at least for me, I can't speak for everybody, but if my husband, and he ain't gonna be my husband if he can't do this, I'm just saying, I'm just saying, if he doesn't know how to submit to spiritual authority, he's not for me. So if you can't submit to spiritual guidance and covenant, you can't fucking lead me. Excuse my language. If a man isn't led by God, he can't lead me. Can't, and spirit won't even allow it. Spirit's not going to even allow that to happen. You can't be all up in your ego, like, trying to condition and form my mind, and spirit's not going to allow me to be that type of woman for a man, because that could happen. Women can do that too. Try to force and control things and manipulate them and condition men to be what they want them to be. And again, that's conditional. So if you're not able to submit to your higher power, have that connection with source and God, to walk in that spiritual authority, you cannot lead me, you cannot guide me. If you're whacked up in the brain, you are narcissistic, you got wounded masculinity and all of that stuff, it's not going to work. Abuse and all of that, I had to heal from that. So you cannot lead me under that. So, because Spirit's not going to allow it, like I said, and I'm protected. Spirit's protecting me from anything that's not serving me, whether it be that it's not time or it's someone that's not even supposed to be in my space. Um, but yeah, there's a saying that a woman should be so wrapped up in God and in her purpose that a man has to go through God to find her. So what I take from that is, so wrapped up in God is that you are in the will of the divine, that your person also has to be in the will of divine to even align with you and get to you. So if they're not, then they're not the one, or I don't know, they ain't the one. Yeah, yeah. And a divine connection, like I said before, a divine connection, you cannot exclude the divinity from a divine connection. You can't do this all by yourself. How many times have we tried to lean on our own ego, our own ego's will and control, and try to manipulate and orchestrate things and try to manifest things outside of its time, or trying to make it happen? I've done this. And even if it's the right relationship, if it's not the right time, it's not the right time for that. Because you could be in a connection, or you could have met a good catch, but if it's not the right time for something that you're trying to produce, it's not the right time. So it's honoring that and allowing things to be, because again, there's a lot that we don't see in our human mind, and we have to be okay with that, that there's a higher infinite source that's working for you on your behalf, for you, in your, what's in your best interest. um it's not easy. Like I said, patience is not, it ain't on top of my list as a great characteristic for me. It's just not, it's not a good qualification. I'm just telling you, like, it's something I have to work through. But that's why I said God's working on me with trust, patience, and faith. That's one of my biggest things right now. But God's timing is perfect, or universe time, whatever you feel comfortable with acknowledging, is perfect timing. And I wouldn't want it, like, I wouldn't want it to be any other way. Now that I, you know, understand and I accept that, because at first my stubbornness would not allow that. Like, I knew that deep down inside, but it's like, no, I want what the fuck I want, and I want it now. I want it now. But if it's not time, it's not time. And I struggle with this. I don't know any other people that struggle with this, or men or women watching alike, but like this thing that women are not supposed to pursue and all of that. And I struggle with that because I don't believe that that's necessarily always true for everybody. I feel like it depends on the person's circumstances, it depends on the person's intentions, depends on where the person is within themselves, or even what they're guided or led to do. Some women are led to pursue. For me, it's never worked. And I know that's because I like to control things. Um, so that's not my path. But for some other, women and stuff like that, or some men might not mind it. Some men probably prefer it. Um, in this day and age, what I find is weird is like a lot of men are not pursuing. It's a lot of women that are doing the pursuing and stuff. I don't know. I don't know what that's about. I don't know. But the word that I was guided to, for those of you that struggle with divine timing, the word is, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. So the activity under the heavens is what's working behind the scenes, right? So there's a season for everything. There's divine timing for every season in our life, and there's things happening behind the scenes that you know not. So that's what I took from that. Hope that helps somebody. But yeah, whenever I waver about my love life and stuff, and I question, nowadays, I ask God to lead me. Like, what do I need to know? Because at first, like, I was trying to figure everything out on my own without God, and I was being led astray, and I was being confused. Um, I was being confused. So the other day, I asked about my husband, and if the things I was being revealed, like what was being revealed to me about him, was that coming from God? Was that coming from a real trustworthy source, or was that coming from my ego? Was that coming from some type of trick trickster energy or something, like pulling it out of my ass or whatever, anything but coming from God. I needed to know. I wanted to ask, just to test the spirit, because it's, you got to, right? I was given Luke 6:23. It says, rejoice in the day and weep for joy, because great is your reward in heaven. So again, like, Spirit's letting me know that there's no need to worry. Like, again, like, because I'm so stubborn, and Spirit will repeat things to me, but in a different way. I don't know about y'all. Like, Spirit can give you 10,000 signs, and it'll be saying the same thing. It could come in a different source, from a different person, from a different number, but it'll be the same message. I don't know about y'all, but that happens to me, because, like, Spirit, I need proof. Are you sure? Are you sure? I'm sorry, I'm not reading y'all comments. My bad. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Y'all free for your opinion. I don't know why certain people don't just go for what they want. But I think it's wounding sometimes too, that cause people not to want to pursue. And a lot of women are overly masculine nowadays, and a lot of men are, dealing with wounded masculinity, or femininity generates overly masculine energy. Is toxic femininity and toxic masculinity. So that's why there's a lot of that imbalance. Yeah, so Spirit did something so crazy with me. I just want to share this with you guys before I get off, because I feel like I'm talking you guys' ear off, but I hope you guys got what you needed out of this. Or, you're free to share this with somebody if they can get through all of my talking and, like, all over the place. Y'all free to share this. Spirit does this, like, cool thing with me. I be using my tarot cards to get Bible verses. Yes, I have tarot, like, oracle cards that have Bible verses on them. But because I resonate with the tarot, I'll pull a tarot card and I'll look up a Bible verse that has the same number as the cards I pulled, if that makes sense. So, for example, Matthews 5:3 and 4. I pulled the Five of Pentacles. I pulled the Five of Pentacles and the Four of Wands. So I think I had pulled the Page of Wands too. I think it was a Knight, or it was a Page of Wands or something like that. And I took that as, oh, that's one of the saints. That's how I took it. So whenever I pull like a court card, I took it as it was a saint. So I think it was one of the pages or a knight. But I had the Five of Pentacles and the Four of Wands. And I looked up Matthews 5:3 and 4. And the message said, blessed are the poor in spirit, for there is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. So again, it's that reassurance that I know what you want, I know it's coming. Chill, relax your muscles, okay? It's coming. That's how I took it. But it's really dope, like, because Spirit wowed me one time, because I pulled, like, Spirit, because I asked about a question. This is another funny story. I'm, like, all over the place. But I had a trickster spirit come to me years ago and tell me that this guy was my husband. Because the thing is our ego, is full of shit sometimes. And, whispering spirits, they full of shit, They know what you want to, whether you call it the devil or you call it lower vibrational energies or whatever you want to call it. They know what the fuck you want too. Just as much as, divine source knows what you want, and you know what you want. So I had this whispering spirit be like, oh, this is your husband. And it was this whole thing about it that I was trying to figure it out. And one day, after because I was in a wounded place, I was not in the submission of divine timing, divine will, divine order. So it was easy for me to be led astray at that time and just believe whatever, because I went to outside sources rather than going to the source, divine, the universe, God, to really reveal that to me and show it to me. So being where I'm at now, I asked Spirit to reveal to me, like, was this you or was it a trickster spirit? And a scripture came out. I wrote it down. I'm not going to find it in my book, but it laid it out so fucking clear. It was saying to slay the dragon, slay demon. It was Revelations. And I was like, that's crazy. That was too straightforward and that was too direct. So, y'all can try that if it resonates with you. It might be a method or something. If you guys resonate with Bible scriptures, it doesn't have to be like in a literal sense, but it could be a parable. I look at the Bible as parables. I don't look at it as like, oh, this is, you know, I don't know. But yeah, so that's what I was guided to. And that was pretty much Spirit saying you need to just relax and chill and trust what I'm doing is sit your ass down. I'm like, okay, if I'm being guided to do anything, then I'll know. But right now I'm being guided to sit my ass down. So I wanted to share that orphan spirit business with you guys. Yeah. I hope it helps somebody. I hope it blesses someone that has, you know, meant to see it and all of that. I didn't mean to talk everybody's like ear off because I can be a chatterbox when I'm in this energy. Otherwise, I'm quiet as a mouse sometimes, and I don't talk much. Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was a long video. I didn't know it was on here so long, but you know, Spirit had me like take down a whole bunch of notes, and I'm going to put that article or that it was an Instagram post that I found, and I like the picture as well. It's like a couple, they're like doing a meditation where the man's hand is on the woman's heart and the woman's heart is on the man's heart, and they're doing, that's beautiful. So I'm going to send it to you guys because I want you guys to, you know, read it for yourselves and take it in the way that you're meant to take it in. That picture, like I said, it's a beautiful picture, beautiful energy. So I'm going to share it, and I will talk to you guys soon. If you guys want to book a reading with me, you guys are welcome to do so. If you guys have any suggestions of any topics you would like to, you know, hear or anything, something interesting. I did have some requests for more inner child stuff. I feel like the orphan spirit kind of went into that. So the girl that asked me about doing more inner child healing, I hope she watches this because this might actually like help her, because it kind of knocked not just inner child and like general connections, but it also went into how it affects your love life. So, you know, because we love love, and you know, that's, you know, we love love. It's beautiful, and we all aspire to, it's a human nature. And that's another thing too that orphan spirits, what they do is they denounce themselves from wanting things that they truly want because they feel like they're unworthy of having it, or they have to do extra work to get it. In essence, yeah, we do gotta heal, but it's something that we deserve. We are deserving already of the things that truly make us happy, that are of our highest good. So my thing was, I would always think, oh, I'm just like some, you know, Disney princess, like cuckoo bird that's like obsessed with love. In a way, it was an unhealthy desire, but it's a true desire that we all have because it's human nature to want to connect and relate with people. And not just that, but like with friends and stuff, because I also dealt with bullying when I was younger with girls and stuff, and even as a young adult in the workplace, I had dealt with that. Excuse me. I had dealt with that, and I feel part of that was because I was molested as a child by a woman. So I had a kind of a resentment for women. I didn't really feel comfortable around them because I always felt that they were up to something, and it was because subconsciously I was molested by a female. So I had to heal that. My sisterhood bonds are way more, I'm in healthier sister connections than I was back then. Like, I understand what true sisterhood is. Back then, it was a lot of cattiness, it was a lot of competition and jealousy and distrust and all of that. So I'm learning what that is now at this age. So I also prayed for true sisterhood and friendships and stuff like that with women that were healthy, that were real. So orphan spirit can, I'm telling you, it goes into, and it's too much, so much more. It goes into so much more. So I hope that resonates. Much love as always. Take care. Peace.